felt, and then of course that allegation that, oh, is it because perhaps there's some sort of arm twisting of INEC?
I think the point must be made clear here. By virtue of Section 85 of the Electoral Act, political parties are expected to give notice of their conventions, their conferences, primaries notices to INEC. Where INEC, and this is a new development under the new leadership, developed a template of what we call monitoring the process. Where you had monitored a process.
At least we monitor or observe.
No, of course. Thank you for that. That's a new development, really, under the new act. Previous, under the 2006 Electoral Act, the law was that you should monitor. But because the political class were very worried about the fact that when we monitor and say this is what we saw, we should be able to say what we saw. What they did was to change the wording from monitoring to observation under the 2011 Electoral Act.
So what's the difference between, observing or monitoring in Nigeria,
yes,
and outside the country? Because we've seen even past presidents,
yes,
especially Olusegun Obasanjo, and
yes,
some people like yourself have
yes,
gone outside to monitor elections within the continent,
right,
and even outside.
Right. Now, when you are observing, you do not interfere in the process. You are merely looking at what has happened and you write your report. You don't need to even tell the poll officials that under your law, this is how you are supposed to do it. But under monitoring, it's expected that there is some measure of compliance, particularly as related to the umpire. You see, in some part of the world, like in South Korea, the proposal for legislation on how to strengthen the electoral process is essentially a responsibility of the umpire. The lawmaking body is always, you submit that to the lawmaking body. The reason was that in South Korea, when we inquired, was that they said, look, our Keman just came up with a work that, look, if those who will be regulated by law are the ones who will make the law, they said there will be vested interest. Therefore, for an umpire that is pseudo constitutional responsibility of making of building a electoral system, look at what that we've been doing. We are in the best position to make proposals to the National Assembly. Otherwise, Akema referred to that what we call structural capture. So that the moment, if Chamberlain, your humble selves are the ones to be regulated by law, also to make the law, you also ensure that there are some aspects of the law.
What was you were making the points about the notice,
yes,
from political parties about their congress,
right,
convention,
about their congresses. So once we have done that, we have our report. All right. Now, but what has happened is that people will go to court, and what INEC has done so far was to ensure that, because we are a question of law, when you get order, we obey the order. But that is a recipe for chaos. Because if you look at Section 31, that says that INEC cannot reject, for any reason, a list of candidates submitted by political entity whatsoever. It also renders nugatory, ineffective, our effort at ensuring that internal democracy, is alive in the political party.
No, but are you violating anything if the law says you have no right to reject a candidate?
Yes.
Presented by the party?
No.
Because the law says it is the parties that present the candidates.
Yes. What we are saying is this, that the electoral umpire, I don't like to give you an example of South Korea, sure has what they call administrative powers. The law appeared to be going toward that direction before we came into office. By the provision of Section 87, subsection 9, in line with what happened with the provision under section or that letter of 2002, to the effect that where INEC has visited the process, or rather where a congress has taken place, and followed through the entire process, and the person who scored the highest vote emerged as sorted out, counted by the committee responsible for that exercise, like the NEC of the political parties, INEC will be able to record that. But where somebody would not emerge, INEC will not ensure that the name of such a person should not be included. But that section, subsection 9 of 87, has been removed. And again, if you look at the judgment of Supreme Court, about 4 judgments, all right, it will seem that, and this is my concern really, that we are not interpreting electoral law strictly. we have said over and again that as umpire, area that we have done wrong in implementing the electoral process, that please the court says so. And that's why under section 77 of the Electoral Act, the moment we are finished with the elections, if what I have presided over is being called to question, I to consider myself being questioned and be ready to make available all materials that is being done.
Don't you think?
But the reality is this: when we have visited well over 19 countries, what is clear, Chamberlain, and Nigerians, is the fact that the success or failure of election is a reflection of the commitment of the society to those processes. All right?
All right.
Because INEC has, if you look at the conduct of elections, you find out that INEC involvement really is very minimal. What do I mean? INEC has just about 12,000 staff nationwide. But in the conduct of election, INEC will deploy well over 485,000, which means that if you remove drivers and other categories of staff, INEC contributes less than 2.5%. In Cross River, we deployed 7,350, whereas we had only about 180 people that were involved.
I think
we'll
have to go to the news room now. But Chamberlain, maybe before we close, now you just talked about your state, even though it doesn't fall within your purview. We should ask you a thing or two concerning local government elections in Nigeria.
And also just add to that the status of the communities, Day Spring and the Bakassi local government communities. What is going to be their status for the 2015 elections? Okay,
so while you think on that, we'll take a moment for the news. We'll be back after that.
Good morning to you again. Here are the headlines. Some young Nigerians turned up the heat on members of the National Assembly, demanding that they disclose to Nigerians the management of all allocations made by the National Assembly, including all allowances and their salaries. The youths who gathered in front of the National Assembly in Abuja yesterday also demanded a full publication of the attendance list for each plenary session and the voting record of the numbers on the national issues. And as Nigeria prepares to celebrate its 53rd independence anniversary, federal lawmakers in the Senate have expressed concern about the low level of development in the country. While speaking on the state of the nation, Senate President David Mark urged Nigerians to build a nation whose unity is an article of faith based on equity, fairness, justice, and equal opportunity. Then more trouble may be brewing for the federal government as the National Executive Council of the Non-Academic Staff Union of Educational and Associated Institutions, NASU, is giving the authorities till Thursday, October the 3rd, to release all outstanding salaries or face national strike actions. The president of the union told journalists in Ilorin, the Kwara State capital, that the government is reluctant to pay her members in the federal universities August and September salaries. The union says it feels betrayed by what it calls the silence of the federal government to pay the salaries despite all pleas by the union. And on the foreign scene, the UN Security Council has discussed a draft resolution on ridding Syria of its chemical weapons after the US and Russia agreed the text. A vote in the 15-member council would now take place later today, and the agreement breaks a 2.5-year deadlock in the UN over Syria. It's seen as a key step in a US-Russia brokered plan earlier this month, under which Syria agreed to disclose its arsenal and eliminate it by mid-2014. Well, that's it from me. It's over to you now.
Yeah, well, let's get your comments on those questions.
Issues. First, on the issues about local government elections, that is outside the remit, as you acknowledge, of INEC. But our concern has always been, in various meetings we've had, that there's need to strengthen the SIEC. In the areas of independence, in the areas of funding, today, under INEC, we are not under any control by anybody. There's no interference.
You still don't have to go and shake.
And that is the greatest asset at the moment for this country. That nobody the president, nobody interfered in what we do. But at the SIEC level, the funding is an issue, and the best way not to remove people independence is funding. So we need to strengthen that in terms of funding, because we have some of the best minds, some of the greatest men and women that could do even more than what we are doing now, given the kind of ambience, given the kind of safeguards that we have at our own level. And that is why today there's a huge cry over election at the state level, because it will seem that the election at that level have now, the state have become conquered territories of states in charge of those areas. It's worrisome to us, because those who will graduate from being local government chairperson through this procedure are the ones going to graduate to our own INEC conducted election without having the right values. That's our worry. As to the issue about this, about Bakassi and other, INEC registration areas are very clear. The rule is this: you vote where you are registered, and that issue is settled as far as we are concerned. Right. District 1 and Kwa Island. Those are the areas where we did our registration in Cross River. All right, and that remains so. And we are the one that provide register for the entire SIEC of the country.
That's right. Just quickly, you know that these particular elections, the ones that just passed in the Cross River State, those people could not vote. Those that have been displaced, they couldn't vote. So we're just wondering, we're hoping that that will not. But the registers are available
in those areas where we got them registered. District 1, 2, and Kwa Islands. They are all there. And our data, our atlas of registration areas have not changed. They remain the same.
All right then, Mike Igini, Resident Electoral Commissioner, Cross River State, thank you for coming on today.